So a question we often get asked is, how high should you bounce on a rebounder? Now the first thing that we have to come to terms with is gravity. Gravity is the basis of all exercise. When you're walking, whether you're doing sit-ups, whether you're running or push-ups, you're challenging gravity. What happens with a rebounder is you have two other forces of gravity, and these are acceleration and deceleration. In other words, when you go down on the rebounder, you reach a point where the impact is greatest on your body, and then you rise up again to a point of weightlessness. So when it comes to bouncing high or low, what we have to understand is the higher you bounce, the deeper into the mat you'll bounce, and the more gravity effect you'll have on your body. Now this may be great in certain circumstances, but first of all, we need to provide a proviso. If you have any injuries or illness, if you're frail, perhaps you're just not feeling yourself today, then a higher bounce is going to put more stress and strain onto your body and obviously the joints, your spine. And you need to be aware of that, obviously not wanting to aggravate any situation that you may be going through. Now there are different kinds of bounces. The first and foremost bounce is of course the health bounce. The health bounce is low, the health bounce is close to the mat. In fact, in some circumstances, you don't even take your feet off the mat. The health bounce is great for lymphatic circulation. It'll give you a little energy boost during the day. So no need to bounce high on that one. When it comes to aerobics, of course, bouncing higher will get your heart rate going because you'll be getting your leg muscles and all those other powerful muscles that pump the blood through the body going. But we do also have to be aware that the higher you bounce, the heavier the impact that is coming down on your joints. So if you're wanting to raise your heart rate, an alternative could be bouncing lower. And again, bearing in mind that about a 10 centimeter bounce will give you a 2G impact. That's another U on your shoulders. Now, if you're working with an aerobic bounce at a low level, you can, of course, bounce faster. And that means you're going to get more bounces per minute, which, of course, will get the heart rate going. The other way to accentuate that, if you like, is to push a little harder into the mat. And you can sometimes get your BPM up to about 128, 132. Now, of course, if you're bouncing higher, it is a slower and a deeper bounce. And that means, of course, that you can't get that faster pace one. And the other thing that comes when you're bouncing higher is, of course, you're going deeper into the mat. So that will then give you a little more pronation. So to be aware of that. Now, the other great benefit of rebounding is, of course, cell strengthening. In other words, every time you bounce, going down on the rebounder, there is that resistance effect, and every single cell feels as if it's doing a little push-up. The higher you bounce, those little push-ups get a little heavier and a little harder to do. Now, what we also have to remember is that while bouncing higher will certainly create more gravity impact and more strengthening effect on the body, there is, of course, the wariness of, do you land correctly? If you put your foot slightly wrong, you may be twisting an ankle, your joints may be taking extra strain. If you're in great shape, absolutely go for it. However, there is a way that a lower bounce can give you that same strengthening effect. And that is either bringing in light weights, you can use stretch bands, you can even simply just tense the muscle as you're bouncing. So squeezing the muscle like this and adding the bounce will increase the resistance effect on the body, making that squeeze that little bit stronger than it would if you were just standing on the floor. The other thing that comes, of course, is balance and coordination. Now, the higher you bounce, the more important it is to be aware that you're going to land safely. If you're wanting to do any balancing tests and things like that with one-legged bouncing, jumping higher is going to be a little bit more difficult and potentially a little bit more dangerous. What we also have to remember is the higher you bounce, if you're going through a range of motion, whether you're using weights or not, those joints are going to be feeling that extra pressure, and so we do need to be very careful about that. So, summing it all up, which is better? Well, it really depends on A, your health, your level of fitness, and what you're trying to get out of it. As we've mentioned, a higher bounce will certainly give you a more vibrant, perhaps get the heart rate going because you're pushing those muscles a little bit more, you're strengthening every cell with a deeper gravity bounce. But we do have to also be aware of the joints, the impact on the body, the spine, etc. Now, if you're keeping the bounce low, the bonuses of that are you can still get your aerobic workout, you can go faster, you can still get your resistance effect, you can bring in those other tools and techniques. At the same time, you're getting your lymphatics, you're getting your proprioception, your balance and coordination. So for us, the winner all round, the safety factor is, of course, the lower bounce.